Have you ever wondered why someone who once said no, who once walked away, suddenly finds themselves thinking about you again? Why, after rejecting you, she comes back into your life, almost as if drawn by something she can't quite understand? It's confusing, it's frustrating, and it's a question that touches a deeper truth about human nature, about connection, and about the way our minds work when it comes to desire, attachment, and value. You see, this isn't about manipulation or clever tactics or trying to win someone over. It's about understanding the hidden forces that guide human behavior, forces that are often invisible but profoundly powerful. And the moment you understand them, you gain clarity, not just about her, but about yourself, your worth, and the way you navigate every relationship in your life. The truth is, people are drawn to what they feel they might lose. They are drawn to challenge, to curiosity, to things that remain unresolved. When someone says no, it creates a tension. It creates a space where the mind starts to wander, where emotions linger, where the memory of connection refuses to fade. It's not always conscious, it's not always rational, but it is deeply human. That moment of rejection, instead of being a final judgment, often becomes the spark of reflection. She may not even realize it, but her mind begins to replay moments with you, comparing them to what she currently has, weighing what she feels against what she experienced, and wondering if something meaningful was left unfinished. And this is where the power lies, not in her actions, but in your own response. When someone comes back after saying no, it's a reflection of something far greater, the magnetic pull of authenticity, confidence, and self-respect. It's proof that rejection is not failure. It's proof that when you maintain your integrity, when you continue to grow, when you refuse to beg or chase, the energy you emit becomes irresistible, even if no one notices it immediately. There's a subtle law of attraction at work here, a principle rooted in psychology and human behavior. People are drawn to strength, to calmness, to presence. When you stop seeking approval and start valuing yourself, the universe responds. By staying engaged with this idea, you are about to discover a perspective that changes everything. You will see rejection not as an ending, but as an awakening. You will learn to harness the tension it creates, to convert it into growth, to become the kind of person who naturally draws people back, not out of desperation, but because you embody value, authenticity, and unshakable confidence. This isn't a trick or a manipulation. This is understanding. This is empowerment. And by the end of this, you will not only understand why she comes back, but you will know how to transform every moment of rejection into fuel for becoming a stronger, more magnetic version of yourself. Someone who commands respect, admiration, and genuine connection without ever having to chase. Stay with me, because what you are about to learn is more than just insight into female psychology. It's a blueprint for mastering attraction, for embracing self-worth, and for turning rejection into the single most powerful tool for personal growth in your life. The answers you've been searching for aren't out there, they're inside you, and when you see them clearly, everything changes. Have you noticed how powerful emotions are in shaping our decisions even when we don't realize it? The truth is, women, like all human beings, are wired to respond more strongly to feelings than to logic. The mind records emotional highs and lows with an intensity that neutral moments can never match. When she first said no, it created a contrast, a sudden emotional shift that her brain couldn't ignore. That tension doesn't fade overnight. It lingers quietly, deep in her subconscious, tugging at her attention, making her question what she gave up and what she might have missed. This is the subtle force that pulls people back, the invisible thread that keeps them returning to unresolved connections. It's not about manipulation, it's about understanding how human nature operates, how the emotional brain weighs experiences, and how absence can amplify what was once overlooked. Emotional contrast is one of the most overlooked truths in attraction. When someone challenges our expectations, it triggers reflection. When the warmth of connection meets the cold of rejection, the mind cannot help but replay both moments. Every shared laugh, every glance, every spark of chemistry becomes magnified against the backdrop of that rejection. The intensity of her memory grows not because she is fickle, but because the human brain prioritizes emotional experiences over simple events. This is why she thinks about you, why she notices the emptiness your absence creates, and why her curiosity begins to stir. It is the brain's way of seeking resolution, of understanding, of closing the gap between desire and reality. This is where your power emerges, not in trying to force her return, but in mastering your own emotional energy. When you understand that emotional contrast exists, you stop reacting out of frustration or neediness. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating presence, calmness, and self-assuredness. Every moment you invest in yourself, every step you take to grow, every piece of confidence you build, increases your value in ways that words can't capture. She notices not because you are trying to impress, but because your life, your presence, and your energy become magnetic. Emotional contrast works in your favor when you focus on becoming the kind of man who thrives independently of anyone else's approval. Rejection, in this light, becomes a tool for transformation. It sharpens your awareness, refines your character, and strengthens your emotional intelligence. You learn to manage your reactions, to hold space for uncertainty, and to remain composed even when your heart feels the weight of absence. This is the invisible work that makes you irresistible, not because you seek attention, but because you embody value, self-respect, and inner power. When she feels the pull to come back, it is often not conscious. It is her emotional brain responding to tension, to contrast, and to the undeniable presence of someone who has embraced their own growth. Understanding this changes everything. It shifts rejection from a moment of despair to a moment of opportunity. It transforms confusion into clarity, longing into insight, and frustration into motivation. You realize that her return is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of natural human response to emotional contrast and unresolved tension. And as you internalize this, you begin to see the larger truth. Your life, your growth, and your presence are far more powerful than any single reaction from anyone else. When you embrace this, you step into a space where attraction is natural, respect is earned effortlessly, and your confidence radiates so strongly that the universe begins to respond in kind. Have you ever felt the pull of something you couldn't have, and realized how much stronger it made your desire? That same principle is at work when someone comes back after saying no. Scarcity is a force that cannot be ignored. Humans are naturally drawn to what is limited, to what feels just out of reach. When she initially rejects you, it creates that scarcity automatically. You become less available, less predictable, and suddenly your presence gains weight in ways you never intended. This isn't about playing games, it's about understanding that absence increases perceived value. It triggers a subconscious recognition that what was once easy to overlook now deserves attention. The very act of stepping back, of holding your ground, begins to amplify your worth without you having to prove a single thing. Scarcity isn't just about absence, it's about the energy you emit when you refuse to compromise your self-respect. Women, like all humans, are wired to respond to confidence and self-sufficiency. When they sense that your attention cannot be bought or demanded, that you have a life, goals, and standards that cannot be shaken, it ignites interest on a level that goes beyond logic. It's a psychological truth that what is freely given is often taken for granted, but what is earned, respected, and rare becomes magnetic. This is why growth and self-improvement are not just beneficial, they are irresistible. Every improvement you make, every moment you invest in yourself, every step you take toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more confident increases your natural allure exponentially. Understanding this allows you to see rejection not as a final verdict, but as an invitation to raise your own standard. It transforms disappointment into opportunity. You begin to realize that the more you focus on building your life, the more your presence gains weight in her subconscious. She notices your confidence, your independence, your calmness in the face of rejection, and it awakens something inside her, a recognition that what she walked away from has depth, stability, and undeniable value. This isn't about tricking her or manipulating her emotions. It's about embodying traits that naturally attract respect, admiration, and interest. When you center your energy on becoming your best self, scarcity works for you. It draws attention not because you chase, but because you radiate value effortlessly. This principle of scarcity also highlights a critical truth. Attraction is not about control, it's about presence. It's about creating a life so full, so magnetic, and so purposeful that people are naturally drawn to it. The more complete and whole you are on your own, the more powerful the pull becomes. The mind recognizes stability, independence, and self-worth, and it is drawn to it instinctively. When she feels the pull to return, it is not coincidence. It is a natural consequence of being someone who stands firm in their value, someone whose presence commands attention without a word, without effort, without desperation. By internalizing this, you transform how you perceive every interaction, every rejection, and every moment of uncertainty. Scarcity becomes not a tactic, but a reflection of your own growth, your own boundaries, and your own emotional mastery. You begin to understand that true attraction stems from self-respect, confidence, and a life lived on your terms. And when you embrace this fully, when you invest in your own power and presence, the return of someone who once rejected you is not a surprise. It is a natural alignment of psychology, human desire, and the undeniable magnetism of a man who knows his worth. Have you ever wondered why the mind never truly forgets someone who left a mark on your emotions? The truth is, humans are wired to hold on to emotional memories far longer than they hold on to facts. Every smile, every glance, every moment of connection creates an imprint that remains active in the subconscious. When she initially rejected you, she didn't erase those memories, she simply left them unresolved. That tension lingers quietly, pulling at her awareness, sparking curiosity, and stirring questions that she may not even fully recognize. Emotional memory is powerful. It doesn't obey logic or reason. It operates silently, influencing thoughts, feelings, and desires without conscious effort. This is why someone often comes back. It's not about manipulation or strategy. It's about the natural force of attachment, the brain's need to reconcile feelings, and the human drive to revisit what was left unfinished. Attachment doesn't mean dependence. It means that significant experiences create a lasting presence in the mind. Positive interactions, moments of connection, and genuine emotional resonance remain alive long after the initial rejection. The emotional brain seeks balance, closure, and understanding. When the person who rejected her continues to embody strength, calmness, and confidence, her mind starts to associate him not just with the past, but with potential, a future she may have overlooked. This is why unresolved attachment is so magnetic. It doesn't demand action, it simply exerts influence. The mind reflects on what was, imagines what could have been, and begins to evaluate the possibilities that were once dismissed. Understanding this principle gives you power. You realize that her return is rarely about trying to trick or manipulate, it's about natural psychology, responding to genuine presence. Your task is not to chase. Your task is to remain authentic, composed, and confident. When you focus on personal growth, when you invest in your life, ambitions, and emotional intelligence, you amplify the pull of attachment without even trying. You become someone whose presence is remembered, whose value is undeniable, and whose absence creates a space that demands consideration. Emotional memory works in your favor when you prioritize self-respect and self-development over temporary validation. This principle also reveals a deeper truth: unresolved attachment cannot be forced. It must be honored, not manipulated. You cultivate the qualities that naturally trigger interest: calmness under pressure, authenticity in your actions, and consistency in your growth. When she senses that you are unshaken by her rejection, that you continue to thrive independently, the subconscious tension intensifies. She begins to wonder, not because she is being coerced, but because her mind recognizes something rare and substantial, someone who is not dependent on her approval, but whose presence was meaningful enough to leave a lasting impression. By embracing the power of emotional memory, you shift your perspective on every interaction and every rejection. You stop seeing rejection as failure and start seeing it as an opportunity to deepen your presence, refine your character, and cultivate qualities that inspire respect and attraction naturally. The moments she once shared with you, the energy you brought into her life, and the authenticity you embodied are not erased. They are stored, amplified, and waiting for alignment with your continued growth. And when she returns, it is not chance. It is the manifestation of psychology, attachment, and the undeniable magnetism of someone who stands firm in their own value, someone whose emotional depth cannot be ignored, and someone whose life continues to expand in ways that draw others back effortlessly. Have you ever noticed how timing can change everything? Sometimes a woman doesn't come back immediately, and that delay isn't rejection, it's observation. Humans are naturally drawn to growth, to change, and to strength that emerges over time. When she initially says no, she is often assessing not just your presence, but your response to that moment. Will you crumble? Will you chase? Will you compromise your own value? Or will you rise, continue to grow, and show that your life does not revolve around approval? This is where personal growth becomes magnetic. The more you invest in yourself, the more your energy radiates strength, confidence, and stability, the qualities that naturally draw people back, even after initial rejection. It's not about impressing anyone, it is about becoming the version of yourself that no longer needs validation to feel complete. When you focus on health, ambition, clarity, and purpose, you create an irresistible presence. Women, like all humans, are attuned to consistency and progress. They notice when someone evolves, when someone becomes resilient, independent, and unapologetically themselves. This transformation triggers subconscious recognition. It tells the brain that what was once overlooked now has depth, value, and substance that cannot be ignored. Your personal development is not just beneficial to you. It becomes the silent force that draws attention, admiration, and interest without a word spoken, without a need to chase, and without a single attempt at manipulation. Rejection, in this sense, is a catalyst rather than a roadblock. It is the spark that challenges you to refine your character, to strengthen your presence, and to embody qualities that resonate on a deeper level. When you continue to thrive despite her absence, it flips the dynamic. She begins to notice the tension between what she experienced and what she sees now. Your calm, confident energy, your purposeful life, and your unwavering self-respect create a psychological pull that is difficult to resist. It is not about proving anything to her. It's about proving to yourself that your value is not determined by someone else's temporary judgment. Timing matters because the mind requires space to process change. People are naturally drawn to stability, growth, and authenticity, but these qualities are observed over time. Immediate reactions rarely carry the weight of lasting impression. When she returns, it is often after witnessing your transformation, the evolution of someone who commands respect effortlessly, whose life is magnetic, and whose presence leaves a lasting impact. This is why patience is as powerful as action. Your continued growth signals that your energy is not tied to outcomes, that your confidence is rooted in who you are, and that your life is expanding in ways that naturally draw others back. By embracing this principle, you stop chasing temporary attention and start cultivating enduring influence. You realize that her return is not about luck or chance, it is the natural consequence of timing aligning with transformation. You begin to see rejection as a moment to accelerate personal growth, to deepen self-awareness, and to embody the traits that inspire respect and attraction effortlessly. When you commit to becoming the best version of yourself, when you honor the power of timing and personal evolution, you create a presence so magnetic that people are drawn back, not because you need them, but because your life commands notice, admiration, and undeniable influence. Have you ever realized how much subtle energy influences attraction? Women, like all humans, are deeply responsive to emotional signals that go beyond words, beyond actions, and beyond appearances. Confidence, calmness, independence, and authenticity are not just qualities, they are signals to the subconscious mind. When a woman initially rejects you, she often continues to observe, consciously or unconsciously, how you handle that moment. She notices whether you become desperate, reactive, or unsettled. She notices whether you maintain composure, pursue growth, and honor your own standards. These subtle cues send messages far more powerful than anything you could say. They communicate value, strength, and emotional intelligence in ways that draw attention naturally and magnetically. The way you manage your energy in the aftermath of rejection is far more important than the rejection itself. Emotional intelligence is a force that cannot be faked. It must be developed and embodied. Calmness under pressure, patience in the face of uncertainty, and a grounded sense of self-worth create a magnetic pull that women, and people in general, are instinctively drawn to. When you understand this, you stop attempting to control outcomes and instead focus on mastering your own presence. This mastery signals reliability, stability, and inner power the qualities that generate respect and fascination simultaneously. Attraction, at its core, is a reflection of the energy you bring into every interaction. When that energy is strong, consistent, and aligned with your values, it naturally draws people back without a single effort to manipulate or chase. This understanding also reframes rejection as feedback rather than failure. It becomes a mirror showing what aspects of your presence are magnetic and which areas require growth. Every rejection is a chance to refine your energy, deepen your confidence, and elevate your standards. Women return not because you outmaneuvered them, but because the energy you project resonates with stability, self-respect, and authenticity, qualities that are rare and inherently attractive. The pull to come back emerges when they recognize these traits and realize that what they initially dismissed carries a weight, a depth, and a consistency that cannot be ignored. When you embrace this concept fully, you stop reacting out of insecurity and start responding with intention. You invest in yourself, cultivate your emotional intelligence, and develop habits that reinforce calmness, presence, and confidence. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to project strength and authenticity, not to prove worth but to embody it. This energy doesn't need explanation, it doesn't need validation. It simply exists, magnetic and undeniable. When she feels it, her subconscious responds. She recognizes the integrity of your presence, the value of your time, and the power of your growth. This is the essence of attraction that goes beyond manipulation and superficial tactics. It is real, compelling, and deeply rooted in human psychology. By mastering emotional triggers and energy, you create a presence that draws people back naturally. You transform rejection from a source of frustration into a tool for self-mastery, awareness, and growth. You begin to understand that true attraction is not forced. It is cultivated through inner strength, consistency, and authenticity. When these qualities are present, return is inevitable, not because you need it, not because you chase it, but because you have become the kind of person whose presence leaves a lasting impact, whose energy commands attention, and whose life is magnetic by design. Have you ever considered the power of boundaries in attraction? Respecting yourself creates an invisible force that draws people toward you. Women, like all humans, are wired to respond to those who hold themselves with integrity, who refuse to compromise their standards for temporary approval. When someone initially rejects you, it is tempting to bend, to chase, to lower your value in the hope of gaining acceptance. But the truth is, doing so diminishes your presence, your confidence, and your natural magnetism. Boundaries are not walls. They are a declaration of self-respect. They communicate strength without aggression, value without arrogance, and stability without neediness. When you maintain your standards, you are not pushing people away. You are creating a space that demands recognition, curiosity, and respect. Maintaining boundaries shifts the dynamic entirely. A woman may return not because she was manipulated or persuaded, but because she recognizes that you are someone who values yourself and refuses to settle for less. This kind of energy is magnetic. It signals emotional maturity, self-confidence, and resilience, qualities that inspire both respect and desire. Boundaries create a healthy tension, an invisible pull that draws people toward what they cannot force. They awaken curiosity, stir emotional reflection, and allow attraction to develop naturally rather than artificially. This is why people often find themselves thinking about someone who once held firm, who did not chase, and who lived with dignity in the face of rejection. Understanding the importance of boundaries also empowers you to transform rejection into opportunity. You no longer see a no as a dead end. You see it as a chance to strengthen your self-worth, to refine your energy, and to project the qualities that naturally inspire return and admiration. Every interaction, every moment of composure, and every demonstration of personal integrity reinforces the magnetic pull of your presence. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling yourself, about maintaining alignment with your values, and about creating an energy that naturally attracts those who resonate with your authenticity. This principle also highlights a profound truth about attraction. People are drawn to what they cannot take for granted. When you respect yourself, when you prioritize growth, stability, and emotional strength, your value becomes undeniable. She may return because your absence creates reflection, because your consistency signals strength, and because your life embodies qualities that are rare, magnetic, and compelling. Attraction is rarely about immediate gratification. It is about the slow recognition of depth, authenticity, and unwavering self-respect. By embracing boundaries fully, you elevate your presence to a level that commands attention without force, inspires respect without demand, and cultivates natural attraction without desperation. You transform rejection from a source of pain into a tool for growth, emotional mastery, and personal empowerment. Every no becomes an invitation to refine yourself, to strengthen your energy, and to embody the qualities that make you magnetic on a psychological and emotional level. When you do this, return is inevitable, not because you chase, not because you manipulate, but because you have become someone whose presence is impossible to ignore, whose integrity is undeniable, and whose life radiates value, strength, and irresistible authenticity. Have you ever realized that true attraction is not about words, promises, or grand gestures? It is about energy, presence, and authenticity? Every action, every pause, every choice you make sends a signal far deeper than anything spoken aloud. Women, like all humans, are wired to sense confidence, independence, and self-possession. When she initially rejects you, she is not just reacting to the moment. She is absorbing the energy you emit, consciously or unconsciously measuring your composure, and evaluating your ability to maintain integrity in the face of disappointment. This energy is far more persuasive than persuasion itself. It communicates value, strength, and stability, qualities that cannot be faked and cannot be ignored. Every interaction, every decision to honor your self-worth amplifies your natural magnetism. People are drawn to calmness, to stability, and to authenticity because it signals emotional intelligence and security. The way you carry yourself after rejection reflects your internal state far more than words ever could. When you focus on growth, composure, and alignment with your values, you project a magnetic presence that inspires curiosity, admiration, and reflection. She may begin to think about you not because you forced attention, but because your energy, your calm strength, and your unwavering self-respect resonate deeply with her subconscious. Understanding this transforms rejection into a tool rather than a burden. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating presence. You stop reacting to external events and start mastering your own energy. Every moment you invest in yourself, every effort you make to grow, and every step you take toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more grounded increases your natural appeal. Attraction, at its core, is a reflection of the energy you carry, the boundaries you uphold, and the life you build independently of anyone else's approval. When you embody these qualities, return is not a question of luck. It is the inevitable response to authentic power. This principle also reveals a critical truth. People are drawn to consistency and integrity over chaos and neediness. When you maintain composure, live purposefully, and refuse to compromise your values for temporary approval, you create a presence that is rare and compelling. The tension created by absence, by strength, and by self-possession awakens curiosity and admiration. It makes her reflect, reconsider, and recognize the depth and value that may have been overlooked in the initial interaction. Emotional and psychological attraction is not immediate. It develops over time through observation, reflection, and the recognition of traits that signal long-term stability, confidence, and authenticity. By mastering your energy, maintaining boundaries, and cultivating a life rooted in growth and integrity, you transform rejection from a moment of pain into a force of empowerment. You learn to radiate presence without needing validation, to project value without seeking approval, and to embody traits that naturally draw people back. When she returns, it is not because you chased, begged, or compromised. It is because you have become the kind of person whose life, energy, and authenticity are impossible to ignore. Someone whose magnetism is born from self-respect, calm strength, and unwavering personal growth. This is the power of presence, the force that commands attention effortlessly, and the key to transforming rejection into attraction. Have you ever noticed that the most magnetic people are not the ones who constantly seek attention, but the ones who move through life with calm confidence and unwavering presence? Attraction is not about persuasion, charm, or clever tactics. It is about energy, authenticity, and alignment with your own values. When a woman initially rejects you, she is not dismissing your existence entirely. She is observing how you respond. how you carry yourself, and how you honor your own worth. The way you react, or more importantly, the way you don't react, creates a subtle but powerful tension that awakens curiosity, admiration, and reflection. Your energy communicates value far more loudly than words ever could, and it is this energy that often draws her back. Confidence and independence are invisible signals that broadcast your inner strength. When you live fully, pursue your goals, and maintain composure in the face of rejection, you become someone who cannot be shaken by temporary outcomes. This is magnetic. Women, like all humans, are wired to notice stability, emotional intelligence, and resilience. They respond to calm authority and to the quiet power of someone who does not seek validation externally. Your life, your presence, and your energy become a force that resonates subconsciously, creating intrigue and attraction without manipulation or effort. The very traits that make you irresistible are those you cultivate for yourself, not for anyone else. This principle transforms the way you view rejection. Instead of seeing it as a loss, it becomes a mirror, revealing the qualities that are magnetic and the areas where you can continue to grow. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to strengthen presence, deepen confidence, and refine emotional intelligence. The pull she feels to return is not a reflection of her indecision. It is the subconscious response to your alignment with self-respect, authenticity, and personal growth. Understanding this allows you to stop chasing outcomes and start investing in the life, energy, and presence that naturally draw people toward you. Emotional attraction is rarely about instant gratification. It develops slowly through observation, reflection, and recognition of rare qualities that signal long-term value. Calmness, consistency, integrity, and independence create a tension that the subconscious mind cannot ignore. She may begin to think about you, reflect on what she walked away from, and feel an undeniable pull towards someone who embodies stability, confidence, and authenticity. These are not tricks. They are the natural consequences of living a life rooted in personal power, emotional intelligence, and unwavering self-worth. By mastering these dynamics, you turn rejection into a catalyst for transformation. You learn to radiate presence without seeking approval, to maintain boundaries without creating walls, and to cultivate a life so magnetic that people are drawn toward it naturally. Her return becomes less about chance or strategy, and more about the alignment between your energy, your growth, and her subconscious recognition of the value you embody. When you embrace this fully, you become someone whose life commands attention effortlessly, whose presence inspires reflection, and whose personal growth generates attraction that cannot be forced, only experienced. This is the power of authenticity, the force of calm confidence, and the truth behind why some people come back after saying no. Have you ever understood that attraction is more about psychology than circumstance? What draws someone back after rejection is rarely about what you did in the moment. It's about who you are becoming in the space that follows. Women, like all humans, are wired to notice growth, resilience, and emotional stability. When you face rejection without losing your composure, when you continue to invest in your life, your purpose, and your presence, you create a magnetic energy that naturally awakens curiosity and reflection. This energy speaks louder than words, louder than attempts to impress, louder than any superficial charm. It communicates strength, authenticity, and self-worth in a way that resonates deeply with the subconscious mind. Every choice you make in the aftermath of rejection carries weight. Your reactions, your focus, and your energy all signal your internal state. When you remain calm, composed, and purpose-driven, you radiate a rare kind of confidence, one that inspires admiration and attention. Women notice not because you are seeking their validation, but because your life, your presence, and your growth are undeniable. The mind instinctively recognizes value, stability, and emotional maturity, and it is drawn to it. This is why someone may return, not as a result of manipulation or strategy, but as a natural response to the energy you project, a reflection of your internal strength manifesting externally. Understanding this allows you to reframe rejection entirely. It is no longer a mark of failure, but a tool for transformation. Each no becomes an opportunity to sharpen your presence, deepen your self-respect, and cultivate the qualities that make you magnetic on a psychological level. Calmness under pressure, self-possession, and emotional intelligence are invisible forces that attract attention and respect without a single word spoken. The tension created by absence, combined with your unwavering integrity, awakens recognition and interest over time. This is the invisible psychology behind why someone might return after walking away. The mind values what is consistent, authentic, and rare. By focusing on personal growth, boundaries, and self-respect, you create an energy that cannot be ignored. You become someone whose life is full, purposeful, and independent of external validation. This presence alone generates curiosity, reflection, and desire. Women are naturally drawn to people who embody these traits, not because they are trying to prove worth, but because the energy you project aligns with traits they instinctively seek: strength, stability, authenticity, and resilience. Attraction becomes a reflection of alignment between your energy and the subconscious recognition of your value. By fully embracing this principle, you transform rejection into empowerment. You no longer chase outcomes or validation. You invest in yourself, cultivate your life, and radiate a presence that inspires reflection and draws people naturally. When she returns, it is not coincidence. It is the alignment of human psychology, emotional energy, and the undeniable magnetism of someone who has mastered themselves. You become someone whose life commands attention effortlessly, whose presence inspires reflection, and whose personal growth generates attraction that is authentic, compelling, and impossible to ignore. This is the hidden power behind why people come back after saying no, the magnetic force of presence, growth, and unwavering self-worth.